All right, let's dive in. Today, we're unpacking the dead serious strategic logic behind a story that, let's be honest, sounded pretty bizarre when it first came out: the plan to buy Greenland. The source material for this explainer calls it the Greenland rare earth heist, and we're going to break down exactly what that means.
To really get this, let's start with a question. Just look at the device you're watching this on right now. What if it just stopped charging? What if the battery died and that was it? And I mean, forever. This isn't some sci-fi plot. It's the exact weak spot at the very center of this whole geopolitical chess game. You see, the reality is our entire modern world, everything from our phones to electric cars, even our most advanced defense systems, is basically tethered to a handful of very specific resources. We are, for all intents and purposes, on a global battery leash. And the problem? Someone else is holding it. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about rare earth minerals. Now, don't let the name fool you. The elements themselves aren't actually all that rare. The tricky part is getting them out of the ground and processing them. It's incredibly difficult, it's super expensive, and honestly, it's pretty messy for the environment. It's a process that China has come to completely dominate. They are, quite literally, the rocks of the future, the secret sauce that makes all of our modern tech possible. And this is where that global vulnerability becomes a huge strategic threat. Because all that complex, dirty, and expensive work of turning these rocks into the materials we need for our batteries and electronics, it's overwhelmingly concentrated in just one place. One country has its hand firmly on the global supply valve. Just look at this chart for a second. The sheer scale of that control is staggering. This isn't just a slight advantage we're talking about, it's a near monopoly. China processes something like 90% of the world's rare earths. That one number, that's the entire reason the Greenland story even exists. It's the kind of leverage that keeps military and economic strategists up at night. So this brings us to a whole new kind of conflict. Forget missiles and tanks for a minute. The analysis here frames this as a resource war, where the main weapons are actually shovels and chemical vats. The ability to dig these minerals out of the ground and process them becomes what our source calls the weaponized shovel, a tool of immense geopolitical power. Okay, so if you're on a leash, the big question is, how do you break free? Well, you've got to find your own supply. And that brings us to the proposed solution, what's been called the Greenland Gambit. The big idea was to tap into this massive, untouched treasure trove of rare earth minerals that's hidden right under Greenland's melting ice sheet. Now, the thinking behind this was a direct and, frankly, brutally simple power play. It was designed to completely shift the global balance of power when it comes to these critical resources. And this slide just lays out that logic perfectly. The argument breaks it down into a simple four-step plan. Step 1, identify the treasure under the ice. Easy enough. Step 2, secure access, in this case by trying to buy the whole country. Step 3, and this is a big one, block your rivals from getting there first. And finally, step 4, use that new supply to power your own future. In effect, turn the world's smartphone back on, but this time you're holding the plug. Now, how in the world do you convince a population of about 56,000 people to just go along with this massive geopolitical deal? Well, the source material we're looking at highlights a very specific and pretty provocative tactic for winning over the locals. The plan, as it's laid out in our source, involved a proposed direct payment of $100,000 for every single man, woman, and child in Greenland. The thinking was that this kind of direct financial windfall could pave the way for a deal, turning a foreign policy goal into a personal payday for the residents. You know, this whole situation really just boils down to a fundamental conflict. It's a massive tug of war. On one side, you've got economic security. That's the system we have now, where a globalized supply chain gives us all cheaper phones, cheaper cars, cheaper computers. But on the other side, you've got national security, the push for a secure, independent supply chain that guarantees you have this critical tech, even if it makes everything more expensive. It's the ultimate trade-off. What's more important, cost or control? And that really brings the question right back to you, doesn't it? Let's just flip the perspective for a second. Would you be okay with another country setting up a massive, environmentally messy mining operation in your backyard if it meant your electronics were cheaper? It really forces you to weigh that trade-off, cost versus control, on a personal level. So where does all of this leave us? Well, the Greenland deal never actually happened, but the underlying fight over rare earths is more intense today than it has ever been. And it forces us to ask a much bigger question about where global power is really going to come from in the 21st century.
And we're going to end with this really powerful thought from our source material. It's a modern twist on that old saying, he who has the gold makes the rules, but he who has the lithium owns the future. It suggests that the new currency of power, whether it's lithium for batteries or the rare earths we've been talking about, it's not sitting in a vault somewhere. It's the very stuff that powers the device you're holding in your hand right now. Definitely something to think about.